Good morning. Welcome to A Crafter's Story. It's Celeste here. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate your time. So, I drink a lot of tea. I think I might have mentioned that a couple of times. I'm trying to be healthy, guys. Trying to stay away from the coffee. But I do like tea. And one of the most recent ones that I bought is this acai blueberry and pomegranate green tea. I didn't see the green tea part of it. It's not my favorite. But anyway, I mean, it's not a bad tea. It's got this lovely sort of reddish tinge. And you know from my previous video that I'd been taking my tea bags and putting them down onto printer paper and making this beautiful marbled paper. And I will put a link for this video in the description below if you want to go and have a look at that. No rocket science, guys. I just drink my tea, I plonk my tea bag on my piece of paper like this, and I leave it to not dry completely because then it tends to stick to the paper, but to semi-dry, to about a damp. When it's still damp, then I can still take the tea bag off. But what I noticed with this blueberry pomegranate, and I've been thinking about it, I don't think it's the green tea part of this tea mix. I think it's actually the blueberry and maybe even the pomegranate, maybe even the acai, I don't know. I think it's all the berries that has created this green tinge, which is so jolly awesome. It's just not even funny. It is an unexpected surprise, and I'm really happy with this green. I just wonder, can you, oh, there with the light, maybe you can see it better. Let me put them side by side and you'll see why there's such a difference in the color, right? Look at that. So a pleasant surprise. I'm loving the green tinge. And so I thought, well, what else can I do with this, if it's going to give me this blue tinge, right? And so I have painted with coffee before, but I decided to paint with this tea. So I'll drink my cup of tea and I'll just leave a little bit at the bottom of the cup. I won't drink it all because a little bit goes a long way. And if you paint with this tea, you get this gorgeous sort of moss green aqua color once it dries. It doesn't start out that way, as you can see. It starts out almost translucent, but when it dries, this is what you get. And as I say, I don't think it's actually the green tea, which was my initial thought. This morning, I just did a grid pattern like this. It still has to dry. And I also just did a random sort of round and splotchy design. I'm just making collage papers at this point, but I do like the idea of the roses and the squiggles and just having a definite picture. And so I thought, well, what if I took leaves and just do like little branches, right? And so I've got this on a mat so that I can turn it around. And let me pick this up and show you. I've decided, I went a little, I'm still drinking the tea, so I threw a little bit into a tray and I have it on the side here. And I am just going to dip my brush, just a regular everyday brush, into the tea. And I'm going to paint as I would with any paint, watercolor, acrylic, probably closer to a watercolor paint idea than it is anything else. So it might go on pink or translucent like here, but it dries that beautiful aqua. And I go over, yeah, I'm still in frame. I go over and I make this fairly thick. I'm trying to really get a definite line. So after I've done my initial little design, I just go and I sort of bloop a little extra color, just, you know, my technical term, just bloop. So let's just put a couple of these, and then I'll let everything dry, and then come back and show you the results. So nothing super technical here, guys, just some berry tea. And I do honestly, I want to say again, I do honestly think that it's the acai and blueberry that is allowing me the allowing this sort of aquamarine olive color to develop on the paper, I guess. And the paper I'm using is a mixed media paper. I would imagine that printer paper will work, except that I think it might warp a little bit, and then you run the risk of some of your thicker parts, like on this little leaf here where I've got a bit of too much of a bloop where that might run a little bit. Even this paper, this mixed media paper, and I don't know what the weight is of it. I don't think it tells me. Let's see, maybe it does tell me on the, it's this one here. Oh, it does. It's 160 GSM, 98 pound. So it's a 98 pound paper mixed media. So it's definitely quite a bit thicker than your regular printer paper. And I do think you need that, or perhaps cardstock would work nicely as well. So you could try the cardstock. Just anything that has a little bit of weight to it, so that you don't get a lot of warping while you're still working with your your design. And so I think, oops, I must be careful not to put my arm in here. I almost did that. Yeesh. It would have been a little bit of a mistake. A little bit of a big mistake. All right, and now I'm going to go in with my ploops of extra tea. Just want to make sure that I have a definite line like that. And then I think, like I did with the roses, maybe just to fill some empty space, I'll put in some of these dots like that. I mean, you could do hearts, you could do daisies, you could do pretty much any design that you think you can get away with. You just have got to remember that you're working with essentially just water, and that it could run on you, so you can't do anything too fine. But anything that is, you know, sort of biggish, that isn't too intricate, is going to work just fine. So this I really do love. I think this is going to come out really nicely. Oh, the other thing I want to mention about the paper quality is, if you were to use thinner, you know, sort of like printer paper, or just a lighter weight sketch pad paper, I found that when these dried, sometimes there's a little bit of feathering, and so I want to avoid that. It is doing a little buckling over here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I know because it's pooling. As you can see, it's pooling here a little bit. So I don't know if I can move some of that color back up, maybe move some of the color down. Okay, I'm gonna mess with it. Let me just leave it alone, says she as she keeps going. Oh man, yeah. So just, you know, be aware of that, and just take that into consideration prior to working with such a liquid paint medium. Okay, so let's see. I can probably turn this and get another one in here, like so. And you really don't need a complicated design, you guys. Seriously, it's I did those little roses while I was listening to an audiobook, because I had this idea and I thought, you know, just as I don't have to use, I can just relax into it, you know. And before I knew it, I had this really beautiful design. And what a great way to repurpose. Now you've got your tea bag, creating a lovely stain that I can use later. I've got my tea that's creating all these collage papers for me. And apart from buying the tea and the paper, it's all uniquely mine, you know. It's all uniquely, I suppose I can't say it's free. Well, the design is free. Let's go with that. So I will go ahead and just do a couple of extra ploops here and there to make sure that I get a really nice saturation of color, and put in all the dots. And then when it's all dry, I'd say probably later this afternoon. I don't want to use when it's dry, I'll come back and show you. I don't want to use my heat gun. I'm scared that the flow of air will move the water, because I already have a little bit of warping going on the paper. So I'm just going to let it air dry, and I don't know what I want to use this paper for, but that is not important for today. Today, all I want to do is finish this design and then come and show you guys what it looks like later. It's been a good number of hours. I'd say probably 4 hours, and this is an example that I did yesterday, and I did this one this morning. This one is dry, and I realized that I hadn't shown you how I did this. I just took this little ruler, T-square, whatever you call this thing, and dipped it in the tea. I had that little blue tray, and then just kind of rubbed it on, dipped it, rubbed it on. And so that is how I was able to get this effect. Then of course came around and did the other side, just dip, 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 and rub it on. So that is how I was able to get this effect. And I apologize I didn't explain that earlier, but I really love this grid effect. I think this is going to make a really nice collage paper. And I think I'm going to use the originals because I drink a lot of tea. I can make a lot more of these. I'm not going to probably photocopy them. I'm going to use them as is. So there's that one. There's this one that I used a little paintbrush just to do the dips and the ploops. And these little sort of half moons to make up the rose effect. Now this little one that we did do together, it's still a little bit wet in some of these thicker areas, and some of the little dots are still wet, so I'm being a little bit careful with it, but you get a good idea of what it looks like now that it's dry. I really love how these papers are coming out. I think they're going to be really nice as belly bands and tags and pockets and all kinds of different collage papers that I'm going to be able to use these for. And then the last one is also still drying a little bit, very much more abstract, and I just used a drinking cup, again like I did with the ruler, dipped it and plonked it, and dipped it and plonked it, and then just kind of wet my hands and sprinkled some of the tea to get those splatters. And again, I think this is going to look really, really nice. I'm thinking perhaps to doodle inside of these circles. I don't know what, probably a daisy, something like that, and then only cutting this out. So lots of possibilities, you guys, that you can use these for. I will scoot this underneath because this one is wet and I don't want to, and this one is wet. So there you go. And it's a very, very different, you can see the blueberry, acai berry, pomegranate, whatever it was that was making. So my light is not that great. Let me see if I can. It's pretty gloomy out there. I think that might give you a slightly better idea of the difference between the blueberry teas and then your regular black teas. And so I don't think it was the green tea that gave me that effect. There is another example of the difference in the color. Thank you so much for sticking around and going on this tea painting expedition with me. And I will see you next time. Bye.